right, welcome into another episode of the Reckoning Sports Tourism Podcast, the Women in Sports Tourism and Leadership edition presented by Spellman Johnson. Of course, our title sponsor is Event Pipe. I'm really excited to be joined by a group of women in the sports tourism field to talk about their experiences, their mentorship, things like that. Dawn, you and I are here in Florence, Alabama, as we shoot this at the Alabama Governor's Conference on Tourism at the beautiful Renaissance. They're all joining us via Zoom. Thanks so much, guys, for taking some time to chat with us today.
Man, I'm going to tell you what, I've looked forward to this for a while. There's some faces here, some new ones that I've just recently met at the last trade show or two. And then my buddy there in Shreveport, my gosh, all the HBCU events that we've got there. What do we got? Volleyball, track and field, and soccer. Sara and I met. Hopefully she'll tell that story about Lumberton. I was on my way out as the CEO of Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports, and we met there because they asked me, could I help them out? And then the young lady there in the corner, I mean, originally from Pittsburgh, you know, I don't think they come in the South very bigger of a Pittsburgh Penguin fan than myself. And she and I met early on at our conferences. And, you know, I love Pittsburgh. I try to get back at least 3 or 4 times a year. I go see the Steelers, the Penguins, of course. Now the Pirates are starting to play a little bit better. So I can't wait for Jennifer to talk. And then now, of course, she'll tell the story, but she's now in Vegas. Yeah. So I can't wait to hear about that. But again, I have really looked forward to this show for a long time and want to thank Spellman Johnson. We're going to talk more about them. They're going to have a show as well. They're getting into this industry. So, of course, without further ado, ladies, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, really excited to have you guys on. Typically, how I start the show, I just kind of let everybody go on individually and tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll kind of get into the questions from there. So we'll go ahead and start. There's a giant blight just in my top left corner, that really ugly LSU flag behind Sara, and so I'll let her start. Obviously, she's the Louisiana representative here on this episode of the show. So we'll just start with Sara in the top left, and we'll kind of work down from there.
Awesome. Oh, that's very rude. Go Tigers. I'm not from Baton Rouge. I'm from Shreveport, Bossier. I'm the director of sports here at the Shreveport Bossier Sports Commission, and I've been here for 6.5 years now. It's gone really, really fast. I kind of started my tourism journey working at our convention center, and working in a building will really set you up for a lot of a lot of good experience. So we've had a fun ride so far. Actually, I met Dawn. I do want to tell the story while we have time. I met Dawn in Lumberton, North Carolina, which it takes a flight and a long car ride to get there. But we met on a baseball field, and we actually stayed up talking for a long time, having some beers outside of a hotel until probably 2 a.m. And we had some really good conversations, and he brought us a ton of HBCU business. So we've had a lot of fun, and it's been a good ride so far.
And by the way, I might add that the old man in the crowd, he's the one that stayed up the latest. How's David doing?
He's on a flight back to Philadelphia. I sent him back this morning.
You tell him I said hello. I really like that.
I will.
I think most people who know Dawn have had a 2 a.m. beer drinking story with him. So
at least
one.
Yeah, he's gonna have to tell you the Portland drinking story.
Now, hey, I was in bed by 9:30 last night.
I was not. I was up pretty late last night. I was getting some summer school work done. But we'll go ahead and pass it to Jennifer Hawkins, who is now below Sara in the Zoom pecking order, at least. Jennifer, tell us who you are, what you do, besides being a big Penguins fan.
Being a big Penguins. Okay, so we got to set the record straight here. I am known as part of what we'll talk about later, but Jennifer Hawkins. I'm the Vice President of Sports Business Development for the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. Most people just say LVCVA, keep it a little bit simpler. But most people know me from my 19-year run in Pittsburgh. That's where I really grew up in the business, but I'm not actually from Pittsburgh. I'm a diehard Chicago sports fan that rooted for the Pittsburgh teams because, I mean, it was good for business. It was good for me. So if if there wasn't a direct head-to-head competition, I was all black and yellow when I needed to be. Don't get me wrong. But I am still a Penguins fan. That was really my foray into like attending hockey games, especially NHL on a regular basis. And it was at the start of a pinnacle with Sid the Kid coming on board. And it was hard not to fall in love with that team pretty immediately. So I appreciate that. What's my Dawn story? Yeah, what is my Dawn story? I have a couple. I'm not going to go into what we were drinking where, but we definitely have this wonderful connection in Pittsburgh as well with Paul Hightower, who we have even worse stories to talk about in the destination, but was one of the first people that really embraced me when I got to Pittsburgh, started talking about his good old days. And I was like, wait a minute. I've heard that name before. And it's just wonderful when we have such a small world within the sports tourism industry in different versions. Some of us didn't even know we were in sports tourism, right? I'm guessing your times as a basketball coach and in college athletics, like you were actually still part of sports tourism. So it's exciting. And then I have to say a shout out to Dave. I think that might be another constant. He was one of the first people to embrace me when I got to Pittsburgh. He is still like, he drops me a note every now and again. And I usually am like, I did not understand a word you just said, but I appreciate you so much. He's got that thick Delaware Boston accent. So just a good group of people to be around. So thank you. Long-winded way of saying glad to be here.
I fully understand the, having to put on another team's jersey when you're working in their city. I worked in College Station for a few years for Visit College Station, and I had to wear Texas A&M gear because we were taking clients to Texas A&M games. And as an Alabama grad twice over and now a faculty member at Alabama, it hurt my heart a little bit. But I got rid of those as soon as I moved back to Tuscaloosa.
Well, I just learned something right here that, all these years we've known each other, I never knew that you weren't a Pittsburgh person. So
Correct.
You played it. My God, you did walk the walk, talk the talk, being there in Pittsburgh.
I mean, that's my job, right? But don't get me wrong. I love Pittsburgh. I fell in love with Pittsburgh. I still love Pittsburgh. I love the people. I love the teams when they're not causing my team to lose. So that's always a challenge. When I first got there, we do the Pirates and the Cubs. I'm always going to appreciate this, but it was really a race to the bottom when I first got there. It was like, who was not going to just lose? And both teams have really started digging their way out or have dug their way out. And now we're looking at some real competition, and I appreciate it. It's fun to watch.
We'll just keep it going. Jaci, you want to go next?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Jaci. I'm with Visit Oxford. So lots of SEC names are getting thrown around here. But so Oxford's home to Ole Miss, hotty toddy. Been here for about 3 years. I went to Ole Miss to get my MBA and just graduated in December, and recently started working in sports tourism in March. So I've only been in this role for a couple months now, been learning a lot. But like Jennifer said, you are in sports tourism before you think you are. Before I was in this role, I was the director of operations for Ole Miss soccer. So still in sports tourism, just in a different faucet, less sales facing, more operations. And before that, I just fell in love with sports by being a college athlete, played soccer my whole life. And that's really in college kind of where I decided that I wanted to work in sports. I fell in love with what sports is and had an opportunity to experience SEC and came out and have been here since. And it's been a great ride. It's been very crazy at times, but I'm so thankful for it. And I've gotten to meet all these amazing people in sports tourism through this new opportunity. And I'm continuing to just meet awesome people. And of course, yes, I know Dawn from Dawn was my very first trade show appointment was Dawn. And
poor thing.
So yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it later, but that was a very eye-opening experience for me into what this tourism industry really is about. So it was an awesome opportunity.
Baptism by fire right there.
Yeah, I mean, before I jumped on to return the email, because she jumped out with an email, I did a little research and was like, oh, I'm going to like this one. Her soccer background. And then some of the folks she was with there at Ole Miss, and I knew some of them from my coaching days. So she's hit the ground running for sure.
Awesome. And then Lauren and Carter, you're the last two. We'll start with Lauren.
Hi, y'all. First and foremost, thank you for having me on this podcast. So currently I am in week 2 of my current position, but I work for the U.S. Tennis Association at their Orlando National Campus. My main responsibilities here are going to be handling all the tennis on campus championships, and then leading into their adult programs for recreation outside of past college. And what does that look like within that space? Prior to this, I came from NERSA headquarters. We were fully remote, so I was still based in Florida, sunny Florida, but I dealt with all their national sports programs there. So I traveled and handled their basketball, flag football, soccer, tennis, pickleball, all of their regional and national tournaments. So I was more on the operations logistics side. However, it goes far beyond that for me. I started in campus recreation in undergrad, went to grad school for that, and then started at UCF as my first campus rec professional. And when I'm not working in sports, I also officiate basketball on the side for the collegiate level down. So I can't get enough of it, clearly.
So you stay busy, to say the least.
Yes, yes.
I understand that.
And we met at the FAM tour in Flowood, Mississippi.
Yes, yes, we did.
Just the NERSA connection and just a chance meeting.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then you were transitioning out. You did a good job. You didn't let anybody know that you were transitioning out. So what a professional.
It was a time period in between where I was like, I don't know what to tell who.
But you were representing NERSA for sure. You did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then last but not least, Carter.
Thanks, Zach. I noticed that everybody's been telling their stories about how they met Dawn, and nobody has a story about how they met you. So have you been getting out much, or
About me?
you just staying there in
Good.
Tuscaloosa?
That's a fair question. Now you're gonna put me on the spot. I unfortunately don't get out too much in the tourism world anymore. I worked in tourism and Visit College Station. I was there for about 18 months. We were there when I first started. We were experienced Bryan College Station. We went through what I called the divorce. We all called it the divorce, and the two cities went their separate ways. And I carried over with Visit College Station. Destination Bryan started with our former vice president. He's now their president, John Friebel, who's phenomenal guy. I don't know if you've had a chance to meet John, being in the Texas.
Oh yeah, I met John. Yeah, we're not too far away from Bryan College Station here, so
right.
I've been down there a few times for different conferences and stuff.
So John's awesome, but Don's the guy. He's the link that kind of binds us all. I met Don when I was in grad school at Alabama, getting my sports management master's degree. And he's the one that helped me get the job in College Station. Probably the only reason I actually did get the job in College Station. And then after we left, my wife wanted to move back to Tuscaloosa. She wanted to be closer to family. She's from Mobile, Alabama originally. So we moved back, and now I'm on faculty at the University of Alabama, where I teach sports management and sports media courses. And then I help Don out with the show. That way I kind of stay current, because I do have a lot of love and passion for the tourism industry. And this has been a great way to kind of stay connected with current trends, meet some folks like you guys, and all of our guests that we've had on over the years, and get to travel to places like the Shoals and Columbus, Georgia, and Punta Gorda, Lexington. So
yeah.
Traveled a good bit, and it's been a lot of fun. So there's been a few guests that I've been able to meet in person before we've had them on the show. Unfortunately, none of you lovely ladies, but we're meeting virtually. And I've already offended Sarah with my LSU remarks, but it's just, I can't help it I've got too much Bama in me, I guess, is where I'm coming from.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm so glad that you asked that about Zach. And real quick, we'd be remiss if I didn't say this because of this show. It really is about relationships. It's about who you know and what you know, because Kendra Fry, and Jennifer probably remembers that name. Jennifer Fry and I were friends for a long time through the SEC and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that was an easy phone call to make to her.
Right.
And the rest is history. So today, the way I look at it, you guys are going to be making friends. You're going to have relationships going forward that you can pick up the phone and talk to each other. So anyways, Carter, tell us who you are and where you are, and we'll go from there.
Well, hello, I'm Carter Rowe, and I am the sales manager at Discover San Angelo, Texas. So little West Texas town, and I've been in this role about a year. And before that, I managed a boutique hotel. And before that, I managed a restaurant and bar at a hotel. And when I met Don, he already knew my whole life story. He found me on LinkedIn and did his research pretty thoroughly. And I walked up and he said, "You have a story to tell." So, yeah, we haven't had any beer drinking stories yet, but I'm sure we'll get there.
You might be the only person that doesn't have a beer drinking story with Don to this point. So
I'll tell you what, I will put up this show and this group of people against anybody else out there on podcast because they've got some credentials.
yeah,
And anyways, thank you for being here. Let's jump into it. And the second part of this.
yeah, we'll jump into it. I want to start off with Jennifer. You mentioned you're spending 19 years in Pittsburgh, and now you're in Las Vegas, two major cities in the United States as far as everything goes. I mean, they're huge economic hubs, both huge tourism hubs. Obviously, Las Vegas is, when you think tourism, you think Las Vegas. Tell me a little bit about your career in general. What led you to Las Vegas? What did you learn in Pittsburgh that you kind of carried over into your new position in Vegas? And while you do that, I am going to shut a door real quick. But I'm listening, but I'm hearing some noise in the conference center.
Get it.
Dawn's getting it. All right.
Okay, no worries. No, I appreciate it, you guys. Again, so happy to be here and have a chance to meet and sit here with these really strong women that are coming up in the industry, making quite, the moves, probably in a much more strong manner than I wish I had done when I was younger and didn't have necessarily the confidence. But even prior to Pittsburgh, I actually started in Cocoa Beach in Brevard County with the Space Coast Sports Promotions. That was my externship after Florida State. So I have that whole Southeast sports vibe in my system as well. But was in Cocoa Beach and then went back to Tallahassee and was the assistant director at the Tallahassee Sports Council for a number of years. Then went to Pittsburgh, really to get into where we had professional teams. I grew up south of Chicago, so wanted to get a little bit closer to family and be in a professional world. But really, my time in Pittsburgh was the foundation. It was where I came in, at least in my head, as a one-person show. In hindsight, there was already a big team. Even though I was the only person in the sports team. I was surrounded by excellence throughout our organization. But it's really where I learned to set strategy, learn to reach out and depend on others so that I could grow what I was doing and really understand the marketplace. Because there, I learned a lesson in patience and perseverance. One of the things that most people know, I think, top of mind about Pittsburgh right now is that we just hosted the NFL draft. It feels like it was overnight for a lot of people, but that was a 10-year labor of love of meeting with the Steelers, meeting with our local stakeholders, going to every NFL draft since the first one left Radio City Music Hall. And so we were in Chicago, we were in Philly, we were in Kansas City, and all the destinations along the way before Pittsburgh was honestly taken seriously as a contender host city. And then when our bid was actually in process and when we were actually awarded the event. And that's when I learned that you start laying those foundations so much sooner than you think. It's easy to get an RFP and respond to the RFP and say, "Oh, look, I won the business." That there's a good chance you were being evaluated long before then, and you had the opportunity to really make this an easier decision long before you knew that this was something important. But from there, I went from Pittsburgh, not directly to Las Vegas, but took a break in between. It was not a break, I shouldn't say that. Took a stop in between with Fast Break AI. So I guess that was a little play on words there. But a startup tech firm that really was focused on using AI to optimize the event experience for athletes, for event organizers, event rights holders, and for families. So everything from using AI to build team schedules to booking hotel rooms, reconciling event impact. So I was there for 2 years, and that was such an experience for me for growth. After 19 years of thinking I had done it all and had learned it all in Pittsburgh, to jump into a sports tech environment where I was fortunate that it stayed very industry adjacent because I was still working with destinations and bringing new opportunities to optimize how they were hosting events and how they were tracking what those events were doing in their community. But I came in there with no background in the sports tech scene and a startup scene in private equity during this, as you know, we're in the midst of all this acquisition, especially in youth sports and amateur sports. So I will say I was humbled quickly, but it was for my it was the best thing that could have happened to me because I learned very fast that I needed to lean on the people around me again. I needed to be okay with not having the answers and that I need to focus on here's what I bring to the table. I cannot be the expert in sports equity, right? I cannot be the expert in building out sports tech. I can bring what I know about the destinations, about what makes destinations tick and what's thing. And I was there for 2 years. I really started to fit in and grow and really I liked what I was doing, but I started feeling comfortable and feel like I could actually do it and do it well. And then Vegas called. And that's really, people are like, what brought you back into destinations? I'm like, you can't ignore a call from a destination like Vegas. For someone who loves what I do, I love the sports sales. I love driving economic impact for a destination, but I also love taking an event and how do we just make it better? How do we make it grow? How do we help our event organizers make their events more successful and to the point that they lean on us as a destination? You can't ignore when Vegas calls, right? It's the sports and event capital. And I needed that next challenge of what could I even bring to the table to make myself valuable within such a strong team with such a strong history of major sports events in the destination.
Everything she just said, we need to capture that. That's a 101,
Mm-hmm.
To anybody in the profession. You talk about not reinventing yourself, but a little bit like me when I got done and I went to work for John Schmieder for a little while with the Huddle Up Group. I ended up capturing a little bit of knowledge that actually a lot of knowledge from him and his group that I didn't have.
Right.
And then I transitioned into something else. Number two is what you just talked about, an RFP, and then the understanding that we may end up hosting the draft. And so we need to go to the other cities. You go to investigate, best practices. So that right there, that's a 101.
Yeah. Sports housing companies, CVBs, event producers. If you're managing hotel blocks, you know the drill. The RFPs, the contracts, the inventory chaos, the post-event reconciliation that somehow takes longer than the event itself. It's exhausting, but EventPipe fixes that. It's cloud software built specifically for sports housing and event accommodations. One platform that handles the entire event lifecycle. No more spreadsheets, no more chasing hotels, no more leaving money on the table when rooms book outside your block. Their live inventory tools capture every reservation, even the ones that come in after your block closes. And they can power a standalone booking site for your event too. The people doing the real work in sports tourism, they trust EventPipe. We trust EventPipe here on the Reckoning Sports Tourism Podcast. So stop fighting your hotel processes. Go to eventpipe.com today. I have a couple follow-ups, and I don't know which direction I want to steer the show into right away off the top, but I think the one I'm going to go into first is I did not know that you had a background with an AI company. And one of the things that we want to talk about is, future trends, where the industry's headed. I think it's stupid if we ignore AI's role as it pertains to everything. And so I'm curious, I'm going to go into and put my college instructor hat on. Show of hands on the screen. Do you guys utilize AI in your current roles? Anybody in any way, shape, or form? Everybody? Okay.
Wow.
So that's there's my first question. From there, I want to go with whoever wants to jump in first, whether that's Jennifer or anybody else on the show. How are you guys using AI in your current role? How is it beneficial, and where do you think it could improve on from there? And I want to start that conversation before we kind of jump back into mentorship and things like that.
I'd love to sit back and hear from everyone else because they're probably using it much more efficiently than I am.
Okay.
How about we go ahead with LSU because you were so mean.
I was so mean. Yeah, I was nasty to the LSU. We'll let Sara take the lead on this one.
Honestly, right now, AI, it's really more, this sounds awful, but I'm more like, please make this email sound more professional. Yes, I'm really good at having thoughts in my head, but like kind of placing them out, it really helps me kind of organize my thoughts. We actually are adopting an AI policy here now, company-wide, so we can kind of have like our brand voice in there to make sure that everyone's kind of doing the same thing. Utilizing it, for presentations and things like that. Uploading RFPs and getting, just really ideas. To me, it's a really good idea generator. Also a really good sponsorship idea generator. So it just, really, it's just coming up with, helping like a think tank type thing. That's kind of what I'm using it for right now. Um, I'm not the biggest computer whiz person. I can hardly, get my Fire Stick to work half the time. So I'm sure some of these young people will teach me in the office as it develops for sure.
If anybody else wants to jump in, I'm curious. I use it similar to you, Sarah. I brushing up on emails. When I'm editing the show, sometimes I'll run our episode through like an AI audio enhancer type deal, and Premiere has some great tools for that. And I'm actually on a committee within our college for AI use and how we're training students to use AI, as opposed to trying to keep them away from using AI. We're telling them, hey, we know you're going to use it. Here's how we think you should. So even if you are kind of using it in a more rudimentary fashion, I think that may be a good term for how at least I use it. I still think that is something worth talking about in the tourism industry and how we're utilizing that. So I'm curious if anybody else wants to hop on and kind of explain how you're using it, or if you have an AI policy. I see Carter pointing.
Yeah.
I'll let her take the lead.
Oh, first of all, I wanted to shout out Copilot. They just upgraded their AI software to where it'll actually put things on your calendar and do some actual like assistant work instead of just being a chat bot that gives you back text. They're starting to integrate it with like actually doing some work that you don't want to do, like adding things to your calendar, sending out invites, that kind of thing. So that's been fabulous for me. But something that I've noticed in my generation, especially handling some of our marketing media stuff, is that people don't like to see obvious AI content come out, whether it's in writing. I mean, you can always tell if it's in writing, if it's a graphic, it's very evident. And especially my generation does not like to see AI produced content. But I think it's important to use it on the back end for your research, for your idea generation, like Sarah said. And like I use it to pull data from 100 different sources at one time, where it'll take them 5 minutes, where it takes me, 6 days. So I think using it on the back end can speed things up and make it more efficient for you. But I think, it's important not to put out content that looks or sounds fake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Sometimes I'll be scrolling social media and I'll see something. I'm like, that's obviously an AI generated infographic, or that's an AI generated whatever. And usually you go, oh, that looks good, but then you're like, somebody could have done better. A human touch on that, it could have made it a little bit better. So anybody else have any AI stories or any input, Lauren?
Yeah, I can jump in here, at least from one of the subjects of money, right? We're looking at budgeting. When I would have to, at my time at NERSA, allocate money to certain things, I needed to look at the projections and what is the industry trending in that area. So I'm going to use pickleball for an example. That went from 0 to 100 really, really quickly. So I took the programs that we already offered, the budgets that we had already had, and kind of said, hey, where can I allocate more money or funds to certain things? I think it's also, within food costs is going up, hotel costs are going up. So when we're bringing in staff for events, or we're looking at vendors for events, and I need those competitive budgets to say, hey, this is the bottom line budget we need to run this event, that's a great resource that I use on the back end to just make myself informative. And then when I take it to the leadership team and say, hey, I've done my research, hey, this is what we need to make a successful event, I have something backing that. It's not just me guessing or just putting a 3% increase on something from one year to another. So I've seen the benefits of it on that end, and it has proven true, at least for over at least the 5 years that I've been utilizing it within the sports tourism space to make some decisions.
That's good. That is good. Yeah.
I'll say a couple of things to just wrap this piece up is agreeing with what everyone says, especially using it on the back end for research and honestly asking compelling questions. I think every time I ask my chatbot to do something for me, like to help me draft a proposal, get me an outline, but I also ask qualifying questions as if I'm talking, this is going to be a sales pitch. So ask me what's the client going to likely ask me? What's confusing about this? Or this is going to my CEO. Give me the executive review of this so that I can make sure I'm answering those top line questions that need to be answered. And sometimes I get way down the weeds with it, but it really does help me clarify. Like, again, we'll talk more about this, but like it's not just from my lens. That makes complete sense. I don't understand why you wouldn't jump on this right away. It's a no-brainer, but adding in voices when you don't necessarily have a team to kick it around at the time. One thing I would suggest greatly is making sure, and this just for the masses who might be listening to this, when you're using AI, obviously you want to be in a closed environment. Las Vegas CVA, we are a division of the state of Nevada, so we have really strong AI rules and controls. So we have a closed system. So we actually can't upload contracts and private information into our chatbots and have those review those documents. But you need to be really careful about that. Don't do that on your Chat GPT like free service, please, or even actually your paid service. You want to limit that identifying information. But because of that, and one of the things I would talk about later is so important to build replicable systems so that you can manage at scale. Where we use AI a lot, where I use it, my team, we use it, is building out forms for contracts. Like look for these specific things in every contract you're doing to point out if it's missing or if it's written a little bit different way. Help fill out these board agenda items, event approval information, anything that we can use, and they can easily we use Perplexity, which is what Copilot's doing is very similar. Perplexity has a built-in assistant where they can go in, they're attached to our Outlook, they can go and pull emails that are relevant to the conversations and the topics. And so I can ask them to do that. And so then I get all the background documentation as well. It can go in and say, well, get me ready for this podcast. It's like, well, you had a call with Don on October 11th. This information may have been useful as well. So really helping to make replicatable templates and things that you only have to think about once, get it pretty much right, and then let the chatbot do a lot of work for like that repetitive information gathering that you have to do.
Jaci, what about you? I saw you raise your hand, so.
I was going to say, I am excited to see where AI goes in terms of like metric and data tracking for post-event. I think hotel rooms are great, but the more and more research and more conversations I have is they're not as accurate as they used to be, especially when Airbnb is now a thing and you can't do a stay and play with Airbnb. And so it's harder and harder to really track the actual economic impact that you're having when you don't have a list of hotel rooms. And especially for a college town where the hotel people are coming into town and we don't have a real true way to track how many people stayed in town because people have summer houses or they're staying with friends and to really track an economic impact. You're seeing things like, I know Placer AI is one. There's another one that I'm blanking on the name of that are tracking different metrics. It's foot traffic, it's IP addresses. And I think you have to take it with not just a grain of salt, but like the whole salt shaker, because it is such a new thing that it's not going to be as accurate. You definitely can't say, oh, we had this many people come because again, it's AI, it's new, it's learning. But I'm excited to see where that goes and how much more accurate our tracking mechanisms can become because of, you're not just relying on heads and beds. You're not just relying on how many people came into a store, and you really get to see a bigger picture and just how economically impactful sports are in your community. So I've just had some conversations and seen webinars and stuff that have been really kind of eye-opening in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's a great point with the tracking metrics. I mean, that's always been something that DMOs, in particular, have really, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but it's always something that's harped on, especially when there's grants and everything given out. You have to be able to track, your hotel rooms and things like that. So
speaking of which, what was I doing sweating today
applying for a grant?
I was applying for a grant, and I've worked on that for now 4 days. last night at the hotel, 2.5 hours trying to tighten it up. The old man was using AI. Okay. Now I will tell you the one thing, the computer I have, I'm wearing that thing out. I've got to have more RAM put on the computer because the co-pilots, ChatGPT, and I'm writing a book and I'm using Claude. So what's happening is it is really dumbing down. I mean, I need more RAM.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to come in this week. So I'll go from 16 to 32. But the point is, even somebody like myself is using it.
Right.
That document, I applied for $25,000 today. The portal opened and it was a race because it was $1.7 million out there to try to get this funding. I wanted to make sure I did the best I could. And I'll be honest, most of everything I did is I'm throwing it on there and we're writing it as we go. And then the sports tourism hat goes on. I'm going, well, this is a single elimination tournament. So, they're going to leave a little earlier, but then we factor back in, well, sometimes both that individual school, men's basketball, women's basketball, they're actually traveling together. So you factor in what happens if the men's team loses on day one and the women's team continues to the championship. Well, the men's team's actually staying because their bus is with the women. So, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, and it would have taken me forever, like it is with this conversation right now. I used the AI, and it was boom.
Yeah, quick.
I think I like the best part about it is it's like, Coach or Don,
Yeah.
oh, that's really good.
It's personalized, and then it hypes you up.
Yeah, it hypes you up.
Hypes you up.
Montgomery moves you through the people who live it, shape it, and share it. The stories that walk you through history. The artist painting change. The chef who stirs soul into every dish. Here, possibility is personal, and inspiration is just around the corner. Be moved in Montgomery.
The other thing, Jennifer, that you kind of mentioned after the first question, I actually wrote down your direct quote, lean on people around me. That's mentorship, right? Somebody with, 19 years in Pittsburgh, several years prior to that in Florida, now in Las Vegas. What is, maybe your biggest piece of advice or some of your best advice that you could give younger women in the sports tourism industry as they're moving up the ranks and building their careers?
Oh, sure. There were three things that came to mind. I was like, what's going to make, and women, men, wherever you are in your career, this is definitely going to be, I believe will benefit you always. But again, things I wish I would have done when I was 24 would probably change how I even interact today. But so it's never too late, but it's never too late, right? So I think it's really important that you have to be curious. Right? You have to be willing to ask questions and learn new things. That's the only way you're going to really understand the ecosystem around you and how people are actually making decisions. It's never what's on the front page, right? It's never that snapshot on the RFP, if I can use that analogy. Those are the basics and almost never what the decision is made on, right? And it's rarely even what's in the RFP. You have to ask questions as to why. Why do you need this? Why do you need this? And do that in everything you do at work. Why is this decision being made? Even if it's coming down 3 levels from the top, find a respectful way to do it. But why? So you understand and you can actually bring in more to the table when you do start asking for things, when you're asking for, whether it's a promotion or funding for a different project, you're able to bring in all those details that are important to your leadership. I think the second thing is communication, that you need to be able to speak to all of your stakeholders, whether it's your boss, and I say stakeholders, really your internal or external clients, up and down the ladder, from up to your boss down to if you have an assistant or your intern, being able to communicate in a way that speaks to them and to their needs. I can use an example, Las Vegas. Getting to Las Vegas, I thought I knew everything about, hotels and room nights and what it means to drive economic impact in a destination. But you get to Vegas and I have hoteliers, some, right, that room nights, RevPAR, what we're used to is their number one KPI. It's the rate. It's the rate that matters, right? And I have other stakeholders here who have 5,000 rooms under their roof, and their number one driver is gaming. It is how much is that person going to spend that stays in that room on the floor. It is not, and that's why you go out and you see a $50 rate. Like, it's not all created equal. These room nights are not equal because they're looking at how those attendees spend their money. I have hotels that are 21 and up. So what their mix is for events that are successful is very different from the Planet Hollywood and some of the others that want to see younger people. I remember I was so excited. I come to the table. It's like, oh, we have this volleyball tournament. It's a sweet spot. It's girls. They're 8 to 13 years old. Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, all come. I was really excited. And I got crickets because this group, they were like, I mean, that's awesome, but mom and dad and grandma and grandpa are not in our building all day. They're actually at the event. We want, like, how's that going with that World Series of Poker, extra event? How's it going with the World Darts Association, which we're going to be hosting? Because those are all 21 up attendees. The event takes place in the venue, right? So all the food and beverages coming from the venue and using ancillary spaces. So knowing who you're talking to and what really makes them tick is really important to hit to that point, and then goes back to being curious. And then I think after that, I made up a word, I believe I call it complementation. And that's really building out your team to be complementary to your strengths and your weaknesses. We are all taught to really lean into our strengths and not show weakness. But if the people around you can't make up for what you're not strong at, you're gonna be very lopsided, and you'll find yourself going all in, possibly in the wrong direction, over indexing on certain areas. But if you're smart, even your interns, is making sure that you're bringing people who don't do what you do well. They love what you don't like to do. Not to take advantage of, not to use it as an excuse to not do things well, but who can really point out, oh, we need to turn this up a little bit. I like big ideas. I don't love details. And that's great for a little while until people are like, stop, let's finish this one thing. And so, I have great people around me, and I say around me, we're a team, not above me or below me, around me, who will pick up that piece, and they're like, okay, don't talk to me anymore until I've finished out the plan. And I'm like, okay, and you just keep it moving like that. But that's how we get to fruition.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that's all great advice. And I couldn't even fathom having to deal with Las Vegas hoteliers because that's
I'm glad I couldn't, or I don't know if I've taken the job because
completely
I thought
different.
I was coming in as an expert.
I mean, Sarah may have a little bit of that in Shreveport because they've got casinos, but it doesn't work like that in a Tuscaloosa or at Oxford or San Angelo, different. But anyway,
completely
fascinating
different
stuff. And by the way, what got my attention with Jennifer, the very first conference I attended was her first one. And she asked a question, and pretty much it was one where you sat back and go, who in the hell is that? Damn, that was a good question.
Oh, no. So, wasn't offensive? Good.
No, you were very good. Anyway.
Was it offensive? No, that's Don's job, is to be offensive.
Just ask the referees.
I want to hear more from each and every one of you guys, and I think the best way to kind of do that is, we've got 4 total on here that are on the DMO side. Obviously, Lauren's on the events rights holder side. So I'll start with the DMO folks. Give me like a 30-second, minute-long elevator pitch about what makes your destination special. And we'll save Las Vegas for last because it's Las Vegas. I mean, so maybe we'll start with Jaci. I think she went last on the AI question. So sell us on Oxford. Tell us why events rights holders should bring their events to Oxford, Mississippi.
Yeah. So Oxford is very unique in it brings that small town Southern charm with big time facilities. And we do have a little bit of credit to Ole Miss for that, but we also have some very nice facilities here. Lauren, I'm sure, has seen those with UTSA. We host them, or USTA. We host them regularly. So we have that community feeling and put on some really good events. So Oxford is so much more than sports as well. When you all come here, you're going to have fine dining, you're going to have great shopping, you're going to have the historic downtown square and the Ole Miss college feel. So I think it's kind of like a regional hub where you get a little bit of everything.
That's a great answer. Yeah, and it's accurate. Oxford is a really cool town.
And yeah, if y'all have never been to a tailgate, well, actually, I don't think you've been to a tailgate until you come to an Ole Miss tailgate. I will die on that hill.
At the Grove, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. I have been to a tailgate. Unfortunately, I was working, so my prior life to tourism, I was a sports anchor in Tuscaloosa, and so I was covering Alabama, and so I'd go on the road games, and so I've been to Oxford a couple times for that, and we'd go out to the tailgates and interview fans and things like that. I never got to partake in any of the fun because I had a game to cover. Maybe I should have. I should have just said screw it and thrown a few back. But it is a really cool town, outstanding small town feel, without a doubt. So. We'll keep it in the SEC and we'll let Sara sell us on Shreveport. Not that Shreveport has an SEC town, but SEC state. Let's hear the pitch for Shreveport Bossier City.
Yeah, so Shreveport Bossier is amazing. I'm actually from here, so I've been here my entire life. We're so regional and it's so easy to get here. Where I-20 and I-49 meet. They say there's 10 million people within like a 4-hour drive from here on each side. So easy to get to. My office is actually like 15 minutes from Texas. Dallas, now that they changed the speed limit in Texas, Dallas is only 2.5 hours away. So we can get there super quickly if we need to. It's it really is. They call us like we're the great outdoors here. Like it's sportsman's paradise. Our fishing and outdoor community is huge here. And kayak, COVID really brought out all those outdoor people with kayaking, and everyone bought a boat. So we're really embracing the outdoors right now. And the Red River kind of divides our cities. So I'm really embracing our river now as well. Like I said, I love it here. It's great to be here. We have beautiful facilities, and I think it's really a surprise. People are like, Shreveport Bossier, what's that? But when they get here, they love it here.
I can attest to that. We've got 3 events.
Yeah, Shreveport, it is another great town. I've stopped through Shreveport several times. And then I believe there's some news. There's a new director of the Independence Bowl, right?
Yes. So
Eric?
Missy's still, yeah. So Missy, actually, she's still here. She kind of transferred. She has some health issues, so she's transferred to like the COO position. And Eric, I've known him a long time. He's so great. Him and his wife actually had a baby like last week. So he's had a lot of good stuff happening with him. So we're really excited for him as well.
Eric and I are old friends. We went to Alabama together.
He's so great.
We worked at the campus radio station together, me and Evie, and we had several classes together. So yeah, I saw that him and his wife recently had a baby, and saw he got promoted to be the new director of the Independence Bowl. So we are connected a little bit. Kind of answer Carter's question of how we've all met.
I love it.
I've got people. I know some folks. As for Carter, sell us on San Angelo?
Yeah, thanks, Zach. So, having good facilities is important, and we have beautiful facilities. I mean, Angelo State University is a D2 in the Texas Tech system, and I mean, our championship facilities are state of the art. It's unmatched and unheard of in a town our size. But I think what makes San Angelo really special is that you're going to get hospitality that you can't get anywhere else. We do everything we can for our clients, and San Angelo is a beautiful city. I mean, we're the oasis of West Texas. We've got a river that runs right through town, 2 lakes right outside of town. Incredible food. We're the visual arts capital of Texas. I mean, the things you can do with your family and outside of actually playing in the facilities in San Angelo are incredible for prices you haven't heard of. I mean, West Texas is known for being affordable, and we definitely are. So yeah, love my city.
Sounds good. I have not made it to San Angelo personally yet.
Me either, and I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, one of these days I'm gonna have to get out there because I'm fascinated by West Texas in general. Some people look at that and they'll say, "Oh, it's like the most boring part of the country," and I'm like, I just think it's so neat how
there's a lot of.
I think the nothingness is neat. Some of the wide open spaces.
Our leisure travel does really well because of the draw of West Texas, and San Angelo is top 10 True West town, actually top 1 True West town this year. And so, getting cowboy boots and a hat and, all the leisure travel that goes along with it. We do really well in that market.
I'm looking forward to doing a site visit out there.
Yeah.
And as far as Oxford, I'm looking forward to coming back, not as the head coach at Alabama, because, I'm going to tell you what, that was a tough place to play.
Yeah.
Fans were right behind the benches. And they took a liking to old Dan Stanley, that's for sure.
And Stanley, your alter ego.
Yeah.
Jennifer, you want to sell us on Vegas?
We'll be back to
I'll get to Lauren.
Okay.
I want to hear the sales pitch for Vegas, because I can't imagine. I actually am very curious, when you have a destination like Las Vegas that in so many ways sells itself, and not that other destinations don't. I mean, Oxford sells itself because it's home to Ole Miss. Tuscaloosa sells itself because it's the home to the University of Alabama. Shreveport, Bossier City is known for the casinos right there on the border of Texas. So all of our destinations have things that sell themselves. But I'm very curious what you go into these meetings with events rights holders, and you're trying to persuade them to come to Vegas over maybe a New York City or maybe a Los Angeles. What makes Vegas so special?
Nice.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's the people. And when I say that, I mean the people on our team at the LVCVA, because we're going to make sure we understand what you're looking for. It's really hard to sell Vegas in a vacuum and to come in because there's so much. And all the things that we can come in and say are wonderful about Vegas can also be very off-putting for a lot of planners, that they don't want to be lost in this mecca. They have ideas of what they think spending time on the Las Vegas Strip looks like, or what they think being out in the suburbs of Las Vegas looks like. So we really want to know what's important to you first before we start throwing a pitch. But what I can say is we do have something for everyone. We're all familiar with the Las Vegas Strip. But what you might not know is for the planners that we're usually talking to, the LVCVA, right? We're the Convention and Visitors Authority. We are the Sports Commission. We're your one-stop, first-stop shop when you come to the destination. We actually own and manage the convention center. We own and manage the monorail, which is the light rail that runs behind the Strip. We manage the loop system, or we're very highly engaged in the loop system, which a lot of people don't know about the Vegas Loop, but that is a system built by the Boring Group at Elon Musk company, where we have about 100 Teslas that run underground around the Strip, going from the convention center to different spots on the Strip, as another means of mass transportation and lightning fast transportation. Our convention center has more than 2.5 million square feet of exhibit space in 4 halls. So our convention center is the size of about most people's probably 5 other convention centers all in one. And so we can host multiple spaces. But we have the equivalent of the convention space I had in Pittsburgh, I have in 3 other resorts along the Strip. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arenas on the Strip. But then we have all of these resort properties that have their own outdoor exhibition space, have their outdoor festival space off the Strip when you want to be just a little bit quieter venue. So we really do have something for everyone, and we know how we're so experienced in what we do. We know how to make your most intimate event feel huge. We have huge events that we make sure that fit within our destination and that we know we're there. It's the number one question we get from some of our mega event organizers. Are people going to know we're there? How are we going to be the only thing in Las Vegas? You're not going to be the only thing in Las Vegas, but you will feel like it. And that's okay. And I think that's the value of what we can do. We could host F1 Grand Prix and a bowl game on the same night if we needed to. We don't want to do that, but we could if we needed to, and a major convention. So we have spaces for everybody, and we have such great connections and a small town feel, believe it or not, when it's time to do the work for planning an event that will make sure you're getting what you need.
That's outstanding. Yeah, I think that's so important. Try to make everybody that comes in feel like they are the only thing in town. Like they're the Super Bowl, even though they're one of 7 events going on in Las Vegas at any given time. So I was really curious to kind of hear your interesting perspective on how you bring in those clients and sort of in a way distract them from the fact that, yes, this is Vegas, there's other things going on, but we're going to make your event feel very, very important because it is.
Exactly. Well, you know the stories, and I'm not naming one comes to mind right now, but I've heard it many, many times, right? Is you have these mega events for you, like for your destination, whatever that looks like. They're wonderful things we talk about and what it means from an economic impact standpoint. But the reality is, a lot of times they're here for a weekend or a week, and it's extremely disruptive, right? It sounds good, but taking over your city is actually not always great. And there's always those people who kind of get shut out of the bubble and don't see the same amount of business or the results that they expected to. And that will haunt you for years until you're ready to do it again. And all you'll hear is, remember that time you said this was going to happen? So really shutting down a destination is not ideal. So we can take a mega event like that, mega for whomever, and really find a place for that and probably not shut down the entire Las Vegas destination, but make you feel like they did. Because because of our ability to, everything's privately owned. So our ability to compartmentalize an event is actually probably second to none.
Outstanding. Then Lauren, I did not forget about you. Obviously, our lone representative from the events rights holder side. Obviously, a few years been in NERSA, now with USTA. What about your events are so impactful in the communities that you go to? Why should DMOs be seeking to bring a USTA event to their city? Because frankly, without events, DMOs are, they lose half of their business in that regard. So probably more so. So tell us the value in hosting a USTA event and sort of what sets the USTA apart.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is looking at the target audience that we're trying to hit. And from NERSA, even what I'm tennis on campus with USTA, we look at the wide array of people that we're touching when it comes to the economical impact to a city or an area or an event in and of itself. So we're looking at not only the athletes, where are these athletes coming from? How many of them are there going to be? So soccer, you have 25 on a squad that can be traveling. You're going to have 4 teams from the same university, where tennis is a little more intimate, but we can fit more teams from a broader landscape at the national tournament. So we worry about the athletes, the participants that are going to be joining them. The second one is going to be the spectators, the parents. What does that experience look like for them? At the youth level, you're going to be spending all day inside at a venue and hopefully see the light of day when you arrive and when you leave. But when it comes to the college experience, they're wanting something outside of it. They're wanting a little mini vacation also on the side. They're wanting to see what that city has to offer, where they can get really, really good food, where they can go and visit from those recommendations. So we want to also cater to those folks that are making that trip, taking that time out of their day to come and not only support their athletes, but then also experience a city. The third one I would say is going to be the staff that we bring in. Certainly at the NERSA level, and then even at the USTA level, we're dealing with a lot of volunteers that are coming in. So whether they're coming from East Coast, West Coast, North or South, we need to make sure that we're providing them with the best experience possible. And when we look at the staff, we want the most flawless experience. And the last one is going to be the partners and sponsors we have. They want their brand and their name on everything. So looking at the target audience of all of these areas and making sure we provide the best experience and a successful event. It looks very intimidating, but when you work with these CVBs and with these different locations and you throw everything out on the table and they say, yes, we can accommodate that all, that is the best feeling in the world. And we've been to so many locations. I know, obviously, we've been out to Oxford several times and we're constantly looking to expand those. The sports world is only growing. I'm seeing new sports popping up, new different variations of club teams, of NCAA teams coming into this space. And so we're needing more venues, right? When we meet with these CVBs and we say, hey, how large is your venue? It's like, yes, the more court space, the more square footage you have, the better it's going to serve our events. So I know that's a very long-winded answer, and probably maybe is just touching the surface level of it all, but there's never going to be a CVB that we're going to be like, we're taking you off the table because you can't offer us. There's always going to be something to offer within the sports tourism industry.
Awesome. Well, look, we are kind of up against it time-wise, unfortunately, because I think we could chat with them for another hour.
Absolutely.
I think the Gen Z term is soft launch. I might soft launch the idea of a part two with this group because I know we had some more questions and I want to hear some more stories from all of you guys, but I also want to be respectful of our time. And I know we've got some other guests that we're going to be speaking to here at the governor's conference, but
This was amazing.
yeah,
This is everything I was hoping it would be. I mean, dynamic guests, very thought provoking. And anybody that's out there watching this show, you know, when we produce it and send it out, this is part of that 101. If you're new to the industry, listen to what these women are telling you. And, you know, I think that you also need to do a little investigating into each one of their either events or their destinations because very, very special places. So we thank you today. It was amazing. Appreciate y'all.
really appreciate the time, guys. And
Yeah, gentlemen,
again,
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Thanks,
y'all for
y'all.
having us.